Hello and welcome to Mediumship Matters with me, Hannah McIntyre. How are you doing? Now, you know how this goes. Sometimes I waffle, sometimes I get a title and a theme before I start. Today I have a theme. I want to talk about the tightrope of truth. Ooh. But then I also want to sing to you at the same time the song from The Greatest Showman, "We're walking a tightrope." So you can tell how today is going to go already, and I haven't even drunk my coffee yet. It's an iced one. It's still here in my hand. So one of the things that I've been thinking about recently, because I've been trying to take my own advice and Spirit's advice and unwind a bit and surrender a bit just to where I am and all of that kind of stuff. And I've just been obsessed with podcasts and audiobooks and learning. Now, the funny thing is, because of the way that I am, I don't know if it's my star sign or just my personality, but I can never just listen to something from the most recent episode or the most recent book. I always have to go right back to the beginning of everything. And I think I mentioned to you before that I've been listening to Abraham Hicks, but right from the beginning, from the first book. So I've just caught myself out on a lie, see, the theme, because I did listen to Abraham Hicks' Infinite Intelligent podcast from whatever point I decided to listen to it from. But I have gone back to the beginning with them also to listen to the Law of Attraction book. And I've been listening to some Dolores, and listening to that and some other podcasts and stuff. But I've gone right back to the earliest episodes on some of them. And then I thought, I'll go back to the earliest episode of mine that shows on Spotify. Now, for reasons that I cannot fathom, when I moved from RSS to Acast said they would import my podcast and do all the work for me, but that wasn't really true. They did import my podcast, but then I still had to change everything with all of the providers I'd already registered with. And for some reason, Amazon, Spotify, I can't get it to bring up my oldest ones. But that is life, and you just have to at some point let it go and accept that it's perfectly imperfect. So I go back to, I think, 2 years ago with Spotify, I think as far back as it goes. So I was listening to that. And so I've been in a very reflective kind of mood, looking at where I was versus where I am now, but also listening to people's first releases and earlier releases and earlier experiences with Spirit and thinking about that. And I guess it also, because there are no mistakes, ties in with the troubles that I've had on social media recently. Because I think there is this kind of theme going on with me at the moment. And I did ask Spirit for some inspiration. So I guess, inspiration doesn't come as a beautiful butterfly unfolding its wings. It comes from real life experiences. But just looking at how the truth moves and that multiple things can be true at once and valid at once. Because I think part of the human condition is that we are always looking for a finality. We are looking for that's the way it works and that's the only way it works. And when it comes to spirituality and mediumship, it is not like maths. There is not this plus this equals this. There we go, it's worked out. There are too many variables, too many different things, and multiple things can be true at once. For example, I recently did a TikTok where I said that the spirit world don't have a voice box, because they don't. I think we can all agree they are no longer in the physical form. They don't have a voice box. That's why they communicate through us, to us, through us using trance. They use electronic voice recorders and Ouija boards and stuff like that, because if they could just speak, they would. But of course, there are exceptions to that rule. So that can be true on a general level, but it can also be true that people sometimes have heard voices. It can also be true that sometimes when people have thought they've heard voices, it was a voice in their head, but it was just very loud or very urgent, and so they perceived it as separate. It can also be true that some of those people did hear a voice separate to their own head. And none of those things are accusatory or untruthful. They can all be true simultaneously, can they not? And this is the thing with mediumship. This is the thing with all of it, is I think in our development, we are all looking for that set of something that is going to make sense, that set of rules, that set of instructions that is going to work for us personally. And whilst I can give you a framework of reasons why I think your mediumship might not be working the way you want it to, or what I would do differently, or my suggested path for how you start, it is really a case of you trying to work out the way that works best for you and is most successful for you. And also our understandings, I think, of spirit and the spirit world evolve as we evolve. They change as we change. So I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the host was talking about how valuable they find sitting in the power, and that it's absolutely, unequivocally necessary for spirit work. And that can be true for them, just as I don't sit in the power. I don't find it necessary. I find it gets in my way. I find it's too much pressure. And that can be true for me. And both of those things can be true. And then anybody and anything in between. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I guess what I really wanted to talk about today is just trying to find your tightrope and where that line is, whilst also understanding that as you evolve and change and shift, your perception and understanding will change and shift. Your knowing of how things work will alter. And so what may have been true to you now, in 2 years' time, may no longer be true to you. And that's okay too. And I guess this kind of ties in with what Magdalena and I were chatting about in the podcast before, when we were talking about mediums not sharing everything, and that has created a lack of evolution in mediumship development because people are having to do the work from the beginning, or from a lower state, for want of a better expression, from the back of the class. When they need to be moving forward, they have to do all of that bit as well. And I think that is true, and it's true in our understanding evolving. And so the information that spirit are bringing in, the lessons and understandings that they're bringing in, are limited by us. I don't think spirit are limited. I think we are limited. Our understanding is limited. Our ability to comprehend certain ideas needs unfolding. It's not as simple as just sitting with it. Sometimes you've got to know it. It's got to be part of your energy, part of your being. And isn't this interesting? And what does that mean for somebody like me that's out there in the public eye and giving an opinion? Because do I need to put a disclaimer on everything that I do? This is my opinion in this moment, except I before E, except for the exceptions. And yeah, I find it kind of interesting. And the lack of space that we're willing to give people as they are going through this process. So I was listening, as I said, to one of my earlier podcasts, and I think it was The Edge of the Void, and then another one after that. And in one of them, well, The Edge of the Void is hilarious because I'm still bloody in that space. It's been 2 years. Send help, SOS. But the other one was quite interesting because I was talking about why it is that we can't necessarily get through who you want in a reading. And I was saying, and I fully believed that then, that the spirit world choose who steps forward. And I didn't even realise I'd had an evolution in that perspective until I went back and listened to it and went, oh no, oh, what am I saying? Oh no, I don't agree with that at all anymore. Oh, how awkward. Actually, I think that the spirit world are with us. They are all with us. And so actually, when you're doing evidential mediumship, sometimes you touch upon the first person you touch upon. And it can be to do with just how you've sent your energy out, how your awareness unfolds, which personality feels most in tune with you, which personality feels bigger, brighter. So it's not necessarily always that spirit are there going, no, I'm going to send grandma in, even though you really want to hear from your dad. It's just that in my limited ability as a human to open up, I've opened up and landed on grandma first before I've landed on dad. And I don't think that spirit play a part in that. I think that's me now. But then, and that's only, 18 months ago, 2 years ago, I really believe that spirit chose who stepped forward, that there was still a separation between this world and the next world, whereas now I don't. I believe that we're in it. So even that simple thing is still out there on my podcast. So if you were to listen to that one and then jump forward, you'd probably be like, what the frick's she going on about? Because it is a journey. And I'm not going to take that podcast down because I don't want to pretend that it's not a journey. I don't want to sanitize everything and only give you the finished product, because you have to go on the journey for yourself too. You have to go on this unfoldment too. And I think part of the problem in modern mediumship is that people are treating what their teachers say as something written in stone and fact. And if I could give you any advice, just question everything. Question everything. Everything you think you know. Question it, and then 6 months later question it again, and then question it again, and unfold into it and try and work out what you believe now and whether it still rings true, and understand that you are like the lotus flower, unfolding a petal at a time, and your understanding will shift and change. Quite often at the moment, and I think it is a problem on my social media, I need to follow some other things other than drag queens and mediums, because that is my entire news feed. It needs mixing up, seriously. But a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing out there, as I've mentioned before, is just the same old things repeated. And there has to be some newness coming. There has to be some value added. There has to be some more exploration, but also an allowance of the exploration of it, the unfolding and the seeing, and a lack of judgment, a holding grace for yourself as you go through that process, but also for other people that are going through that process. I just find it interesting. Really, it is really just a fascinating space that we're all in at the moment. And so when you're working with spirit, part of your work is to work out where your limitations are, where's an idea that you've been given or an idea that you've had about how mediumship works becomes a wall that you hit, that you somehow need to find a way to break through. Because when we're in that energetic space of opening up to spirit, whatever we believe, consciously or subconsciously, controls how we work with spirit. The clairs are the perfect example of this. Now, many of you will know that I understand the clair system, but I also think it's equally a blessing and a curse, because we have all these ideas about how we're going to perceive and receive the information, which is great, until you do a "what clair are you" quiz. And then you decide that you are only clairaudient. And then as you're talking about being clairaudient, you're using talking and speaking, and people are all very impressed. But you haven't really thought about the fact that you're not hearing them as a separate voice. You are just hearing it as your own voice in your own head. And actually, it's not clairaudient. It's actually just your brain interpreting that information as language. But because you believe that's the only way that you receive, you then turn off your ability to hear in any other way. And so your mediumship is automatically limited. When spirit are working with you, they know there are certain bits of information. There's no point in trying to get through you because you're not open to receiving them. Clairvoyance is the bane of my existence. May I say, because so many mediums have told themselves they're clairvoyant, and they believe that all of the imagery that is coming up in their mind has been divinely given to them by spirit. But the problem is, in my opinion, and this is my opinion and it might change as I evolve, the majority of information that people are seeing as an image is actually an image created by their own imagination from the energy from the spirit world. See, I don't believe that the clairs are chosen by spirit. I think it's a partnership. I think spirit send an energy, and the way that we receive it is through us and our energy system and our brains. We like to think that spirit work is all spirit-led, and it is spirit-led, but it also utilises your physical mind. And the fact that we keep trying to bypass that and ignore that doesn't make any sense to me. It's a necessary part. So when you're first doing a spirit link, I always say to people, and you will have heard me say this before if you've been with me on this journey for the last 3 years, don't go with what you see first, because what happens is people get hypnotized by the imagery in their mind, and they start going into intricate detail about all of the little bits that they're seeing. And not only does that slow the reading down and stop the blend because there's no momentum, but quite often the images that they're seeing are not factually true. It's their brain, the resource of their mind, bringing up an image that fits using their imagination. It's a bit like when I do the visualisation meditations. I love them. You guys seem to like them too. That's fantastic. But if I take you to a beach, the area that is built in the visualisation is built by your mind. It's not built by spirit. Spirit are not saying, right, we'll put a pebble here and there's something here and the wave there and the sun's here in the sky, quick chuck in a seagull. That we are creating that. And then it unfolds using our imagination, which is why some people just can't do visualizations, because their brain doesn't work that way. But if you were to give them a meditation where they worked in a different way with sound or with colour or something else, they'd work very well with it. It's not the be all and end all. And so often people will say, well, I couldn't get a picture, I couldn't get an image, so therefore I can't do this. But it's just an acceptance that it comes from their physical brain. It's not that spirit have cut them off. It's come from their brain. And therefore, we have to understand that what is true to me may not be true to you. And even though I've got a very vivid imagination, always have had, sometimes go into a brown study, as my mum would call it, and I'm so far gone that when I come back, I feel a bit disassociated from life. I don't know where I was, but I can't tell you where I am now. I'm drifting, I'm off in the ether. But even though I have that, I would still say, if we were going to label me, then the Claire I sit in is just knowing. I just know stuff. And I don't really think about where I get it from or what Claire it came in from. I just know it. And then it's only when someone says no that I really dig into how I received it. But think how much freer we could all be if we just weren't worried. We just went with, well, I know this. I don't know how I know it. It doesn't matter whether it's a picture or a feeling or a taste or a smell or a touch or an emotion. I just know it. And how much freer would mediumship be if we allowed ourselves that? So I guess this is partly coming from social media, and I'm resisting talking about it because I've had somebody on Instagram telling me that I've made it low vibe by acknowledging the fact that I've been trolled on social media and that I should ignore them, which kind of made me laugh because, ironically, I don't think commenting on somebody's post that you don't like to tell them they should be ignoring other posts that they don't like really makes any sense. But again, there's that kind of gaslighty spiritualism that I think we're all facing and we need to talk about. And I've probably been guilty of this. I just want to say this. I'm not coming at this from a point of thinking that I am pure of this and that I have not sinned in this way, because I can feel in my body, I know that I have at times. God damn me and my ego. But where is the line when we are out there as educators, as people who are talking about spirit, when we are saying, spirit have told me it's time for me to get out there and do the work? Are we holding a space of grace for other people? And in that, I mean, are we saying things to people like when their manifestations don't come to fruition? Well, you probably weren't in alignment with it. Have you thought about trying a bit harder? You probably got in the way of it. Are we saying to people when things go wrong for them, oh dear, that's a shame, we need to get you into a higher vibration? Because can you think of anything worse than being at the lowest point of your life, where you are now, and then having one of those quotes or messages chucked at you, shaming you a little bit for having those experiences? And if we are working with the understanding that there is a divine path that we're following, as I was talking to Amber, Malibu Medium, about last week, if we are working with the understanding that there is that some things are predestined and some things we create, regardless of whether it's predestined or created, do we not deserve empathy for the space in which we find ourselves? And why is it that we want our spiritual people to be sanitized and only showing the good stuff? I've been watching Roxanne from Spiritual AF. She's had a bit of a bee in her bonnet recently, and I've loved it because it's been really funny to watch. She's been calling out lots of misogynistic stuff and patronising stuff on her TikTok and things like that. And I've been following Witchy and Wild on Instagram as well, and she's quite fiery. So I feel like there is this rise within the shifting patterns where people are showing their fierceness, they're showing their displeasure, they're showing how they really feel. And I do that too. And then I've got people telling me that I shouldn't. And I find that just as a concept really interesting. If I was, if someone's come onto my post and sworn at me, I can understand energetically that the road that we most likely understand to be the most, in brackets, spiritual, is to ignore it and move on. But there also comes a point, doesn't there, when you've had 150 people swear at you, where you just think, no, I'm going to bite back a little bit here. Enough is enough. Now, is that low vibe, or is that a boundary? Is it lowering the vibration of Instagram, or is it just shining a light on the darkness? And this is the thing, I can understand that it is lowering the vibe at the same time that I can understand that it's shining a light. That's the tightrope. It can be both of those things depending on where you're coming at it from. I thought I was rather funny. This person thought I was really neggy. And that's okay, because we're both coming at it from different energetic perspectives. They are me, I am them. We are all connected. So within that, there's so much opinion and personal taste. And of course, whoever watched my stupid video mocking the trolls came at it from their energetic perspective when they opened their phone. I came at it from my energetic perspective of, oh God, here we go, more abuse. Well, I'm going to make a joke about this one because it's, if someone wants to say to me, but what about this? Then we'll have a conversation about it. If somebody wants to say, you talk bullshit, then we won't have a conversation about it. We will have a debate on it. And yeah, I find the tightrope of perspective, consciousness, what is actually true, and what was true to Abraham Hicks in the 80s when they recorded their first downloads from the Abraham. And there is an evolution in their teachings, in their lessons, in their approaches. But we know that the spirit world doesn't evolve because it's timeless. It's everything that ever was and everything that ever will be. So that then shows that they are having to adapt what they give to us to make it palatable to our level of consciousness. Like they had to get me to go through those stages of going, this is my belief system. No, this is my belief system. No, this is my belief system. I mean, attachments are the perfect example of that for me, because there was a period of time where with the fire of Feist, like a preacher in the USA, traveling around with my show, I believed that I was working for the good Lord. And then I just started thinking about spirit, and they had shown me in so many other ways how clever they were and how switched on they were. And then I just kept thinking, well, what am I doing then? Why do you need me? And then it evolved from there and there and there and there. And it's absolutely fine that other people haven't evolved into that space as long as they're not charging people $150 for an attachment removal on Instagram. Then it's not so fine. But why are we not allowing that tightrope space? Why are we not allowing the growth? Why are we deleting the old podcast, the old episodes? Why are we moving away from allowing it to be a journey and sharing it as a journey? And is that not really part of our work as light workers, to help people to understand that we have been on a journey too? It's almost like we want to propagate the idea that once you start working with spirit, ding-a-ling-a-ling, everything's good, everything's sorted. I am now a conduit for the spirit world. They enter me, they speak through me, it's nothing to do with me. I'm so holy. Namaste. And really, we need to be saying, well, it's a collaboration. And it's spirit working through me to the best of my abilities at this moment. But of course, that doesn't sound good, does it? It doesn't sound exciting. If I put that in my write-up, well, come and see medium Hannah McIntyre if she does her best to get you the evidence you want, but she accepts she might not be able to, because it really is an energetic experiment and a collaboration with you, the audience, and her as a medium, depending on the mood in which she finds herself and how her energy levels are doing that day. But she will really try, and please come along, because it might work really well, it might be atrocious, most of the time it's pretty good. Come and give it a try. Just doesn't sell, does it? Would you pay money for that show? No, you wouldn't. And that's a fact, I guess, as much of any of this is a fact, that you have to kind of do the sales thing to get yourself out there. But it is also a fact that it is an experiment and it is a journey. And when I look back at my readings that I was doing 5 years ago, there is part of me that goes, oh, God almighty. But there's also part of me that goes, it doesn't take away the value. Just because I couldn't get the evidence through that I am now capable of getting through when it works doesn't mean there's no value in it. So wherever you find yourself on this journey, just be aware of that ever-moving, ever-changing tightrope of what you know to be true now, but also what you know could be true in the future, and the possibilities and potentials in between. And when you meet somebody that has the belief system you had, because I did the gaslighting, only good vibes over here. I'm never going to post anything negative on social media because I am a harbinger of the light. And so because it's only light over here, there's no bad vibes over here. None. I never struggle. I never have a difficult time. I'm never let down. I get everything the way that I want it to be because I'm spiritual. When we start realizing that actually the light and the dark are part of it, that we need both and we need to not be sanitizing the journeys, doesn't that change everything? For ourselves, with giving ourselves the grace to explore our mediumship and our connection and our unfoldment, but also for others who are doing the same. Well, there we go. I did stay on topic-ish. It was pretty good. I'll give myself a 7.5 out of 10 for staying on topic today. The title of the podcast has not changed 10 seconds in. It's a miracle. Let me know your thoughts. Voice note me, you know the drill. Voice note me, numbers in the show notes. Email me, podcast@hannahmedium.co.uk. Let me know what you think. Message me on social media, but I might miss it if I need to read it out on here. So those first two are the best. And also, while I have your undivided attention, I just want to let you know that next year's 2024's Peace and Practice Retreat is now open for bookings. So if you want a week with me and other like-minded people in the most amazing accommodation, it is so fancy, really lovely, luxury, quirky. I mean, there's tree houses and everything, shepherd's huts, barns, lodges. It's so lush. We have the whole estate to ourselves, private chef, loads of work with spirit, lots of healing, lots of unwinding, but also just hanging out, chatting the chat, sitting around the campfire, being together away from muggle life. Please do check it out because it's going to go quick and it's going to be amazing. So thanks for listening. As always, I'm so grateful for each and every ear that this podcast hits, and I'll catch up with you all again soon. Have a great day.